بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Before we get started, inshallah, we'll just wait a few moments as people join. I just mentioned something that was on my mind, and many may be aware, some might not be aware. It's a huge scholar by the name of Mufti Taha Karan, who's passed away in South Africa. He was a Shafi'i scholar, a scholar of the Shafi'i school of thought, and he was born in South Africa. And this Islamic scholarship has been in his family. His father, who's also passed away, the late Mufti Yusuf Karan, he was actually a very well distinguished scholar in South Africa. But Mufti Taha Karan, as far as his kind of services to the religion are immense. You may be aware one of the more recent series that I did was on the pandemic, but it was based off his 40 hadith. One of his 40 hadith series that he did on the pandemic, which is one of his most recent works. And he studied, predominantly he studied in South Africa, and he also studied in India, around the Indian subcontinent, etc. And he graduated in 1991. Out of a class of 700 students, he was one of the highest in terms of achieving distinction. He was one of the leading students. And then he didn't suffice there, right? He then went to the Middle East and he studied in Egypt. Over there, he was there for 2 years or so. And then also, this is the thing, that's his formal studies. Then his informal studies in terms of gathering hadith transmissions and chains from scholars across the globe. He was part of the Muslim Judicial Council in South Africa, and he doesn't like, he was somebody who didn't like to really boast and show himself off as much, but he would be requested to speak at so many different conferences and all of these things. And he had his own Islamic seminary, what they call a Darul Ulum, which he founded himself. And so he was really focused on that a lot of the time, to try and preserve knowledge in the modern age. And he was very, very focused on this. And his writings, his teachings, his fatwa are like your legal verdicts. Like a lawyer gives a verdict on something like, is this legal or not, and they will go through the Western kind of, you'll go through the legislation and you'll say this is okay, this is not okay. So a fatwa is basically the same idea from an Islamic perspective. And so Mufti Taha Karan, the one who's just passed away, he was very well known for his fatwa, etc., and contemporary issues that he would tackle in a range of things. You can say all of the contemporary things that people are shy to tackle. Whether it's Islamic economics and finance, whether it's Orientalism, whether it's feminist ideas and feminism, post-modernity, all of the different discussions that exist. And his students, obviously, over the next few days, they'll be releasing, of course, their own experiences with Mufti Taha Karan and what kind of a teacher he was, what kind of a scholar he was. But one thing that I've read so far that everybody says is he was gifted with an encyclopedic knowledge. And you could say he had near photographic memory, within all the Islamic sciences, or within a range of Islamic sciences. And anybody who came into contact with him was just inspired. Right? I think when he passed away, Dr. Yasir Qadi sent a message to his mother regarding his passing, etc., and how much, even though he had only interacted with him once, the impact that it had left on him. So khair, inshallah, we'll get started. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we were discussing from Ayyuha al-Walad, Imam Ghazali discusses regarding studying. And he says that, after studying so many different sciences, what can we bring or kind of summarize the religion down to? And one of the ideas that he mentioned in the previous session is اعمل لدنياك بقدر مقامك فيها. Put an effort into this world for the period of time that you plan to remain within it. وَاعْمَلْ لِآخِرَتِكَ بِقَدْرِ بَقَائِكَ فِيهَا. And put an effort into the hereafter for the eternity that you will remain within it. وَعْمَلْ لِلَّهِ بِقَدْرِ حَاجَتِكَ إِلَيْهِ, and strive towards Allah and strive to please Allah only as much as you need Allah. So however much you need Allah, in that proportion, work towards Allah. وَعْمَلْ لِلنَّارِ بِقَدْرِ صَبْرِكَ عَلَيْهَا, and make an effort to save yourself from the fire in that proportion that you are able to endure it. However much you can endure, that's how much you should sin. If you don't think you can endure that fire which Allah has prepared for punishment, then do not sin. And so we continue in this idea of, he starts with these ideas of shortcuts. What are short ways that a person can connect with Allah? And so one of them, he says, وَتَأَمَّلْ فِي حِكَايَاتٍ أُخْرَى. He says, I want you to think and ponder upon some other statements of scholars. وَذَلِكَ أَنَّ حَاتِمًا الْأَصَمْ. There was a scholar by the name of Hatim al-Asam. كان من أصحاب الشقيق البلخي. He was a companion, or you could say a student of Shaqiq al-Balkhi. Rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhima, may Allah shower His mercy upon the both of them. فَسَأَلَهُ يَوْمًا. So one day Shaqiq al-Balkhi asked the student of his, Hatim al-Asam, and he said to him that صاحبتني منذ 30 سنة. صاحبتني منذ 30 سنة. You have spent time with me for a lengthy period of time. You've kept my company for 30 years. ما حصلت فيها. What have you gained from those 30 years? So the response from Hatim al-Asam was, حصلت 8 فوائد. If I was to summarize the time that I have spent with you, 30 years in the company of somebody, that's insane. That's a large amount of time that you have claimed to have benefited from this individual. And so he says, I have benefited I've taken 8 lessons that I could summarize if I was to summarize what I have studied from you. وَهِيَ تَكْفِينِي مِنْهُ. And that will suffice for me. They are enough for me. لأني أرجو خلاصي ونجاتي فيها. To the extent that these 8 ideas that I'm going to mention now, I have hope in Allah that these will deliver me from the fire. They will be a cause of my salvation. So فقال Shaqiq says to him, ما هي, what are they? So قال حاتم الأصم. Hatim al-Asam then expounds on these 8 ideas that he believes in 30 years of studying under an erudite scholar, a scholar of huge kind of standing. He then says that these are the 8 things that I could say summarize my studies with you. He says, الفائدة الأولى, the first thing, أني نظرت إلى الخلق. I took a step back and I observed humanity. فرأيت لكل منهم محبوبا ومعشوقا. For every single individual, for everyone that exists, there is an object of love. معشوقا, there is something which everybody is attracted towards. يحبه ويعشقه, and it's something that they love and something that they are attracted towards. They are infatuated by this thing. وبعض ذلك المحبوب يصاحبه إلى مرض الموت. And he says that when I observed carefully, he says, those things that the people love, for some people, it remained with them till their final moments. وَبَعْضُهُ إِلَى شَفِيرِ الْقَبْرِ. And some of these things even joined them at the graveside. They've passed away, they've gone into the grave, it came to the grave with them, but just outside the grave. شَفِيرِ الْقَبْرِ, from the outside. ثُمَّ يَرْجِعُ كُلُّهُ. However, I realized every single thing returns. وَيَتْرُكُهُ فَرِيدًا وَحِيدًا. And every single thing leaves an individual alone in the grave, solitary confinement. وَلَا يَدْخُلُ مَعَهُ فِي قَبْرِهِ مِنْهُمْ أَحَدٌ. From all of the things that people loved in this world, it might have been with them until their final moments. It might have come with them even to the graveside, but none of them entered the grave, and they left them alone. No support after that. فتفكرت, I then gave it some serious thought. وقلت, and I said, أفضل محبوب المرء ما يدخل في قبره ويؤانسه فيه. In that case, the most beloved thing and the best thing that a person should love is that thing which is going to enter my grave with me. ويؤانسه فيه, and it will be a means of support for me in the grave. Look, I can befriend everybody on this earth, and I can be the best person for everybody, and I can go out of my way to make good friends and say I have so many friends and I have so many followers and I have so many this and that and all of these different things. But if it's not entering my grave, what benefit is it bringing me? And so let me befriend something that will enter my grave. فَمَا وَجَدْتُ غَيْرَ الْأَعْمَالِ الصَّالِحَةِ. I found nothing that fits this description. I found nothing that fits these tick boxes other than أعمال الصالحة, good deeds. فأخذتها محبوبا لي. I made them the most beloved thing to me. لتكون سراجا لي في قبري. So that it can become a source of light for me in the grave. وتؤانسني فيه ولا تتركني فريدا. So that it can be a friend for me within the grave. It can be a true friend and it will not leave me alone. That's the first lesson he learns. Lesson number 1. The most beloved thing to me and you should be our good deeds. And so what that, and don't just take it at face value. We're not here just to read something and say, okay, good deeds, that's good. Everything else, not good. No. Take a practical understanding from it. What does it mean that the good deeds are the most important thing? Anything which compromises my good deeds, I will give that up. If there is somebody or something that comes in the way of my good deeds, I will say, I don't need that in my life. I can do without that. And so this is the true understanding that we understand from this first statement of his. That he says, anything that comes in the way of my good deeds, I don't need it. Because you might claim to be my friend, or you may claim to love me, or I might even love you. First and foremost, either that thing will disappear, or that thing will pass away, or that thing will end. Right? If it's the desires of this world of wealth, then that wealth will be spent one day. It will disappear one day. And if it remains with you in your bank account till you die, it stops at your bank account when you die. It doesn't come with you. It's then transferred into somebody else's account and is distributed. If it's the love of cars or wealth and all of these other things that are, that are material items that give you benefit, nobody's saying no. But if you love them to the expense of your good deeds, the good deeds that you missed out on, they were the ones that were going to come into the grave. The car won't. The other ideas of material wealth won't. Right? And so I need to really understand this idea. Anything that comes as an impediment to my good deeds, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And so that's the first thing. The second lesson. أني رأيت الخلق. I studied the world once more and I saw mankind يقتدون بأهوائهم. They were guided by their desires. They were being pulled by a leash by their desires. ويبادرون إلى مرادات أنفسهم. And people were competing. People were hurrying towards the muradat أنفسهم, the egos. They were towards their desires, towards their base desires. Right? I want this, I have to have it. I want this, I have to have it. I want this, I that's it. I need to go and get this. And if I don't get it, then I'll find a way to get it. Halal or haram. فَتَأَمَّلْتُ قَوْلَهُ تَعَالَى. I then meditated upon the verse of Allah, where Allah says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. Allah says, as for that individual, خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ, who fears the station of their Lord, meaning who fears Allah. What does it mean by fears Allah? Well, they fear the displeasure of Allah. It's an idea of love, right? When you love somebody, you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to displease them. And so it's not always the idea of fearing the punishment of Allah, but it's more having Allah displeased with us. And so that individual who fears displeasing Allah, وَنَا النَّفْسَ, and they hold the nafs back. They hold the soul back. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ, they prevent the soul, the desires, عَنِ الْهَوَى, from vain pleasures. Right? So there is pleasures in this world which are permissible, that a person is allowed to go and fulfill. But there are those hawa, those desires that are vain, of no benefit, and actually are harmful, or not within the framework of the religion. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Then paradise is that individual's final abode. And really, sometimes we underestimate these verses. And the reason we underestimate these verses, again, you have to understand, this is 2-3 things that we have to caveat every single verse with. And I have to read verses with this mindset, and you also have to do this. The first and foremost thing about these verses is there's no denying they're 100% true. Allah is the one who's speaking these verses. That means that there is no deniability. There's no doubt in my mind that this is reality. This will happen. This is not something subjective. Allah is saying these verses. Second thing that we have to understand is, if I don't have an understanding of Jannah, how can I yearn towards it? So when Allah says, فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى, paradise will be that individual's ma'wa, their final abode, their place of protection, right? then I won't seek it. And then Allah, then we just read the verse, but we don't analyze the verse and say, what is Allah saying? Allah's telling me to do two things. And Allah's in throughout the Quran, you find there's a methodology to the way Allah speaks, and He teaches us. He says, for that individual who khafa maqama rabbihi, fears their Lord, meaning fears the disobedience of their Lord, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, and they pull their soul and they hold their desires back from those vain pleasures and those vain desires and those immoral and impermissible desires, that person gets Jannah. Two things we have to do. But it's not even two things we have to do, it's one thing we have to do. Hold back and control these desires. Hold back and control these nafs. And how does a person do that? Allah mentions it just before that in the verse. That build within you this idea that I do not want to disobey Allah. I do not want the displeasure of Allah. So, okay, fine. Easier said than done. Let's break it down a little further. But let's read this verse backwards. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Paradise will be their abode. We all want paradise. So we're all agreed on this bit. So, okay, fine. There's three chunks in this. We're all agreed on the first bit, which we're going in reverse, that we want Jannah. To get to Jannah, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. We have to hold our souls back. We have to hold our desires back. And notice the words, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. It's like an animal, it's like a horse that's trying to gallop towards something. And it's وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ. You have to prevent it. You have to pull it back. You have to rein it in. It's something which, sometimes will be overpowering. But a person has to put that effort in and hold themselves back. So what does it mean by hold yourselves back? Well, it just means conform within the framework of the religion. Where Allah instructs us to do something, we commit. And where Allah instructs us to avoid something, we avoid it. We don't make excuses. We don't try to find an excuse for it. And how is that going to be achieved? Because this is the crux. This is the main thing. The most effective way Allah mentions is خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. Build within yourselves. I need to build within myself this fear of displeasing Allah. Now, there's a few ways a person does this because it's easier said than done, right? We all say we fear Allah, but it doesn't actualize itself into reality, into action. How does a person do this, right? Spending time in the company of those individuals who have built this fear of disobeying Allah. Why? When you spend time in the company of such individuals, they will speak of Allah. And the more they speak of Allah, the more conscious and aware you become of Allah. And the more you know Allah, the more you are able to appreciate what He has done for us. And the more you are able to appreciate what He means for us. And the more you can do this, the more it makes you conscious that I can't disobey Allah. He's done this for me. He's done this for me. He's given me this. And so speaking of Allah allows you to learn who Allah is. And as you learn who Allah is, it will save you from disobeying Allah. It will give you that strength to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is the process that a person has to build. This is a process that a person has to build. And so the verse actually makes it very clear to us the process of getting to Allah and the process of getting Jannah, which we want to be our ma'wa. And so he says, وَتَيَقَّنْتُ أَنَّ الْقُرْآنِ. So far he says that I thought about this verse. I gave this verse some thought. And then he says, وَتَيَقَّنْتُ. It clicked. I was certain. أَنَّ الْقُرْآنَ حَقٌّ صَادِقٌ. The Quran is the genuine truth. There is no doubt in this. If Allah says you want paradise, you're going to have to rein your nafs. For me, sat here speaking, and for you sat there listening. You can try every trick in the book, but if Allah has said Jannah is achieved through وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, you are going to have to do what's called mujahada. You are going to have to strive. If you want to achieve Jannah without striving, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. This is the reality of the situation. Allah doesn't sugarcoat things. That's the reason we sat here, not just for entertainment. But I need to sincerely pull my soul, pull my nafs away from these sins, the disobediences of Allah. They seem insignificant in this world. Each time I disobey Allah, it mounts and it mounts and it mounts, and it continues mounting on my shoulder of deeds, and I will have to account for it tomorrow on the Day of Judgment. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. Understand, Al-Quran حَقٌّ صَادِقٌ. The Quran is the genuine truth. فَبَادَرْتُ. We should hurry just as he did. فبادرت, I hurried, إلى خلاف نفسي, in opposing my ego, opposing my base desires. وتشمرت, and I made an effort. I started working لمجاهدتها ومنعها عن هواها, and I hurried to combat it, to hold it back, to restrain it from its desires, its vain pleasures. Again, I'm making a distinction between pleasures of this world which are permissible and vain, impermissible pleasures that lead to the disobedience of Allah. Holding ourselves back from these حتى ارتاضت لطاعة الله سبحانه وتعالى وانقادت, until my nafs was satisfied with the obedience of Allah and it gave up, وانقادت, and it became the word for inqadat is it submitted to the will of Allah. It submitted to the will of Allah. This may seem like a small idea, but this is huge. This is huge. Like, don't kid yourself. The journey to Allah will have mujahada. It will have struggle. It will have strife. It will be difficult, but it's worth it. It's a journey worth making. Number 3. So the first one that we have covered, which he has said, he says the first thing, my affiliation and my love for anything I attach my love to, it disappears. It either leaves me in this world, or I will leave it and I will move on from it, and it will remain in this world. So let me attach myself and love those things which will remain with me into the next world. The second thing he mentions is when I looked around, I saw everybody running after their desires, and that seemed like the normal thing to do. And wallahi, he's so on point the way he's explaining this. He says, I looked around at people. What does he mean by that? He means this was the cultural norm. Everybody else was doing this. Everybody else is looking to have the best clothes, the best shoes, the best design, the best fashion, the best home, the best car, the best house, all of these different things. And so we live in a culture where these things are the focus of every single thing. And so he's saying that I looked at everybody else in this, so I thought maybe I should do this, but we never give this thought. And then he thought, okay, fine, everyone else is doing it, let me look at what my Allah says. And Allah says, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, those individuals who restrain their souls, restrain their desires from those vain pleasures that are of no benefit, that person will get paradise. And so it seemed like a worthy choice, right? The third thing, أني رأيت كل واحد من الناس, I saw every single individual يسعى في جمع حطام الدنيا, I saw every individual exerting themselves in accumulating this world. حطام الدنيا is the temporary ideas of this world, the temporary concepts of this world, the temporary things of this world. So he says, and then ثم what's the word? Is a bit of the text that's been rubbed out. I'm assuming it would say ثُمَّ يُمْسِكُهُ. ثُمَّ يُمْسِكُهُ. Yumsiku means to grab something. So amsaka. ثُمَّ يُمْسِكُهُ قَابِضًا يَدَهُ عَلَيْهِ. Right? And so then he says, I see everybody, في جمع حطام الدنيا, seeking and accumulating this world. ثُمَّ يُمْسِكُهُ. And then they hold this world. قَابِضًا يَدُهُ عَلَيْهِ. Clutching to this world, holding on to this world. فَتَأَمَّلْتُ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. Is this not what people do? They make every effort in accumulating the things of this world, and then they hang on to these things. And what it means by hanging on is spending only in this world, only for the things of this world, not investing for the next world. And so he says, فَتَأَمَّلْتُ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. I looked into the Quran and I found مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدُ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. That what you possess, يَنْفَدُ, it will dwindle and disappear. Eventually it will become nothing. It seems like a huge amount now. It will be spent. It will disappear. And if it doesn't disappear in this world, by the time you pass away, it's gone. وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. And that which Allah possesses remains forever, is eternal. What does this mean? Well, that which Allah possesses. In essence, that which you invest towards Allah. In those causes which are righteous. Right? And by the way, again, we don't have the time to go into this, but financial charity and financial acts of obedience are not limited to your zakah. Your zakah is 2.5% of your wealth, your surplus wealth. Right? There are so many other avenues that I can spend my wealth in, other forms of charity, other forms of sadaqah, right? And I have to seek these opportunities. Like the act of obedience is my zakah. That's the bare minimum. I have to do that. In essence, the zakah isn't my wealth. That 2.5% of wealth, it's no longer mine. I have to give that away. So yes, there is a sacrifice in the obedience of giving the zakah, but the true obedience would come on a higher level of obedience, I should say, rather. A higher level of obedience is where a person sacrifices that which actually belongs to them. Like, it's impermissible for an individual to spend their wealth of zakah, right? That's the point I'm making. Whereas the rest of the wealth that remains in your account, that's yours. But to give from that, now that's levels. That's new levels. And so Imam Ghazali is saying from the the verse of the Quran, "Ma indakum yanfadu," that which remains with you, it will dwindle and will disappear. And that which you send forth into Allah's possession, meaning you put in as an act of charity, whether you're spending on your family, whether you're spending on somebody who's more in need of it than yourself, whether it's in some sort of a project where you're providing water to those people that need it, different ways, however it is, whether it's giving charity towards teaching Quran or bringing somebody education or something of that sort. فَبَذَلْتُ مَحْسُولِي مِنَ الدُّنْيَا لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. He says, I started to sacrifice the gains that I got from this world. The things that I amassed of this world, I started to give them up in the path of Allah. فَفَرَّقْتُهُ بَيْنَ الْمَسَاكِينَ. I distributed them amongst the poor. لِيَكُونَ ذُخْرًا لِي عِنْدَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. So that it can become a treasure for me, a proper investment for me with Allah. With Allah. Allah is the best broker who exists, right? When you talk about investment terms, there's a broker who will do your investments on your behalf. Allah will put your money to the best use, because He will give you 100%, not 100%, immense profits in the next world. And so it's worth investing in Allah and in the path of Allah, in those deeds that Allah wants us to. The fourth thing he says, أني رأيت بعض الخلق ظن شرفه وعزه في كثرة الأقوام والعشائر فاغتر بهم. There were those individuals. Sometimes people are not running after wealth. You see that the nafs is comprised. The nafs is a very delicate thing, and it's a very technical discussion. And the nafs inclines towards two broad ideas, which can then be broken down. Firstly, it inclines towards wealth. But wealth is not the best way to describe it, because that's not the word they use in Arabic. The best way to describe it is desires. And your desires of pleasure. So things like food, things like drink, things like those things that bring pleasure. So comforts, luxuries, the fulfillment of sexual desires, all of these things. And so there's that aspect, which is like the greed aspect, the aspect of greed, amassing wealth, increasing your kind of pleasures from a sexual perspective, increasing your pleasures from all those other ideas. So it's greed, which you could summarize as an English word, which I think would be quite good. And then there's the other aspect, which you would say is a yearning for fame, a yearning for honor, but an unhealthy honor. Right, just to be called out, like there's a talk taking place, or there's a kind of conference taking place, and I just want my name to be mentioned. There's somebody who's going public, and they're saying, I'd like to thank this person and this person, and I just want my name in there. I want to be seen with celebrities. I want to be seen with people of high nobility and these kind of things. And so there's two aspects of this nafs. Somebody is always involved in one of these. Each person has to study themselves. And actually the scholars say it's really interesting. The scholars say that it actually develops from one into the other. So think as a child, what are you interested in? You're interested in play. You're interested in toys. And so you're interested in acquisition of toys and that kind of thing, and enjoyment and pleasure, which is fine. That's what a child does. As you grow older, it's a mix of the two, right? So you want to acquire with your greed. You want to acquire the best of fashion. You want to look a certain way. but also you want to be seen amongst the boys, and you want to have some street cred, and you want to have this and that, and so there's a seeking of fame as well at the same time. As you then grow older, your focus goes less from the fame and more towards acquisition of wealth. So when you're coming into the early, the late teens, and you're now looking for a job or something, it's about amassing as much wealth as you can. So I want a car, and I want this fashion, and I want this, and I want a house, and I want this jewelry, and I want this fashion. That becomes the idea and the focus. And then a person continues when they've had children, and they continue in this vein until they maybe get a bit more senior. And now the competition is no longer about wealth. It becomes more focused on other things like, the fame. So instead of greed, now you're focused on the fame aspect. And so you'll see people who might be very rich, they'll dress very simply when they get older, when they get more senior. They'll wear just a nice cardigan or something of that type, just a simple piece of clothing, nothing fancy. And they look normal in terms of clothing, but they will boast of the fame aspect. So they'll say about their kids, and I've got this many grandkids. Oh, my son achieved this today. Oh, my granddaughter achieved this. Oh, my daughter achieved this today. And it will become a much more kind of competition in terms of your children, right? And the achievements of your children, and the kind of fame, and you'll want to be called out that, I'd like to dedicate this to this individual, etc. And so the nafs is at every stage is developing, and it's got its little trap holes and the traps that it falls into, and a person has to really work on this. And so, like I said, the nafs is a very delicate thing, and it can usually these are one of the two things, broad ideas that it goes towards: either a greed in terms of acquisition of this world and the ideas of this world, or a greed in terms of acquisition of status. And again, there's no issue in honor and nobility and dignity, but there's that unhealthy level of honor and kind of name, you want to be name called and all of these things, and you want to be shouted out, etc. And so he says that رأيت بعض الخلق, I saw many individuals ظن شرفه وعزه في كثرة الأقوام. They started believing that their nobility and their standing in communities is في كثرة الأقوام, is in the size of your following, is in the size of your peers, is in the size of your people, right? It's in your numbers. وَالْعَشَائِرْ فَاغْتَرَّ بِهِمْ. And they were conceited by these things. They were conceited with the number of followers, the number of likes, all of these ideas. وزعم آخرون أنه في ثروة الأموال وكثرة الأولاد. And he says, and there were some individuals who thought, it's not about that. It's actually more about the tharwatul amwal, the amount of wealth I possess, وكثرة الأولاد, and the large number of children that I have. فافتخروا بها, they started becoming proud with these ideas, and فافتخروا, they started kind of showing off with these ideas. وحسب بعضهم, and some of them thought الشرف والعز في غصب أموال الناس. Some of them reckoned that nobility and a standing in society was to have the wealth of other people. And so whether I take it with force, whether I take it with, by hook or crook. And so في غصب أموال الناس, the theft of people's wealth, وظلمهم, and the oppression and tyrannizing of people, وسفك دمائهم, and the spilling of their blood. So some people thought that this is what honor and dignity is. واعتقدت طائفة أنه في إتلاف المال وإشرافه وتبذيره. And he says there's a group of people who thought that, you know what, honor and dignity is, and each person has to judge themselves. Some individuals thought that honor and dignity is in how you spend your wealth. إتلاف المال, in the wastage of money. If I have an event, if I have some sort of event takes place, it's not about thinking smart. It's just about, can I spend more than that individual? Can I make it look better than that individual? Can I say my food costs this much, and my drink costs this much, and just the stage costs this much, and just this costs that much? So وَإِشْرَافِهِ وَتَبْذِيرِهِ, that lavish spending and squandering wealth and wasting wealth. وَتَأَمَّلْتُ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, he says, I pondered upon the verse of Allah, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. Such a simple verse, but it brings everything to reality. It mellows every other idea out into the background, and it makes it blurry. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. we need to reevaluate our lives. Who are we trying to impress? Are we trying to impress other human beings, just atoms that are being put together and formed in the shape of a human being that live amongst us, who will all stand in front of Allah? I'm impressing somebody who, at the end of the day, will be stood in front of Allah. What am I impressing this person for? Who should I be impressing? Allah in the verses of the Quran brings it straight back. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. In the eyes of Allah, in the view of Allah, the akramakum, the most noble from amongst you is atqakum, the one who is the most conscious of Allah. Don't just hear this verse and think, okay, God consciousness, taqwa. Build taqwa. Build God consciousness. Take time out of your life to think upon Allah, ponder upon Allah, become conscious of Allah in the things that you do, in the things that we say. When you make a decision, make Allah a part of that decision. If I need to do something, if I need to buy something, make Allah a part of these decisions. When I meet with somebody, the things that I say, make Allah a part of that conversation. That would Allah want me to say this? Would Allah want me to do this? And it requires us to slow down. Don't be impulsive. Take that moment and think to yourself that would Allah want this from me? And it's not easy. You know, there's a saying where people say that once upon a time people would think and then they would say. People would think and then they would say. Then there came a time when people would say and then they would think. And then now is the time where people say and they don't even think. They say and they don't even think. There's the famous saying in English, weigh before you say. Weigh as in weighing scales. So weigh before you say, WEIGH, weigh before you say, right, which rhymes. And I found that same idea in the Urdu language also rhymes. They say, tolo pir bolo. Weigh your ideas that you're about to say, pir bolo, and then speak. And in Arabic, they say, in a much more kind of expressive way, لو كان الكلام من فضة فالسكوت من ذهب. That if your speech that you are about to say and you wait, and it comes only to the weight of silver, then in that instance, silence is gold. لو كان الكلام من فضة فالسكوت من ذهب. That if your statement that is you're about to utter, you weighed it up in your mind and it came to the value of silver, it wasn't gold, then don't say it. It's still not good enough. Refine it until it becomes a statement of gold, and then silence becomes silver. So say you're about to say something and it might harm somebody, but it's going to get you laughs. It's going to get you jokes. So it's going to be a silver standard, right? But you can't say it's gold because it's going to harm somebody. Whereas there could be a statement that you could say of gold, which might get the laughs that you want, but we won't upset anybody, won't hurt anybody. And so it's that idea of contemplation. And that's what God consciousness is. And in every decision of your life, in every statement of your life, Allah is present with you because He is present with us. And so He says, فَاخْتَرْتُ التَّقْوَى. That, people are seeking this and people are seeking that and people are running after this and running after that. Some of the students in the Arabic class, they have a statement which we've used a few times. We're trying to earn money that we don't have, to please people that we don't like. It's something of that sort. I can't remember it, but that's one of the statements from the class. فَاخْتَرْتُ التَّقْوَى. He says that after all of these ideas, what do we learn? إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. Allah just peels away all of the fake ideas and He gives it as it is. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most noble from amongst you is the one who is the most conscious of Allah in their lives. Make Allah a part of our lives. And so He says, فَاخْتَرْتُ التَّقْوَى. I opted for taqwa. What kind of a fool would opt for anything other than taqwa? God consciousness, being aware of Allah. When I perform my prayer, Allah is present. When I step outside of my home, Allah is present in my life. When I say something, I try to make Allah present at every moment of my life. And you build that God consciousness. وَاعْتَقَدْتُ أَنَّ الْقُرْآنَ حَقٌّ صَادِقٌ. It comes back to this point. I had the belief that the Quran is 100% accurate. It is the truth. There is no denying the truth of the Quran. وَظَنَّهُمْ وَحُسْبَانُهُمْ كُلَّهَا بَاطِلٌ زَائِلٌ. And the opinions of the people, the methodologies of the people, the ideologies of the people, they are completely and utterly batilun za'ilun, falsehood. An entire community, an entire, you can have the entire society claiming one thing, but the Quran mentions the opposite. We go with the Quran. We go with the Quran because the Quran is the truth, and every other ideology is falsehood, and that will not change. That will never change for us. And we'll conclude on this fifth one. Although there are eight, we'll conclude on the fifth one. He says that أني رأيت الناس, I saw people يضم بعضهم بعضا. Some individuals would blame others. ويغتاب بعضهم بعضا. Some would slander others, some would backbite others. فوجدت ذلك من الحسد في المال والجاه والعلم. And I concluded, this is seriously deep stuff. He says argumentation, blaming others, slandering others, backbiting others, all of these seriously detrimental ideas, where does it come from? He gives us the root. He says, I found that the roots of these are في الحسد من الحسد في المال والجاه والعلم. They are only rooted in jealousy and envy of either somebody's money, either somebody's fame, or somebody's knowledge. These three things, my friends, truly these are the three things that people fight over. I'll come to the knowledge part, but you see the reality of this is, it's a verse that we did with some of the Arabic students. The human being has a disposition of argumentation. The human has a disposition of, arguing with people and fighting with people. I just saw in the comments, I think that's Khidr. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have for people we don't like. Yeah, that's the idea that we speak about. So Khair, I was saying, what was I saying? Yeah, so as humans, we have this idea that humans are inherently argumentative, right? And it comes from a verse of the Quran. Humans are inherently argumentative. And what happens is we compete with others, we argue with others in three things, one of three things. Either it will be acquisition of wealth, so what he's mentioned as mal, right? Acquisition of wealth. The second, which we discussed, was fame, wanting status, etc., right? And the third is knowledge. And you have to understand, if a person doesn't have money and a person doesn't have fame, this is for the students of knowledge to be very, very careful. A person who doesn't have fame and a person who doesn't have wealth, what do you have? You have knowledge. And so what else will you argue about? Because the human has this inherent nature to argue. Argumentation is within us. And so if we don't have wealth, we can't compete and argue about wealth. And we don't have fame and status, so we can't argue about likes and dislikes and all of these things. And so the knowledge that we have, Shaitan uses that to make us argumentative. And we'll argue over knowledge. And what's even worse is sometimes an individual who doesn't have knowledge, who has minimal knowledge, and they might have some knowledge of something small. So Allah gives them a little bit of knowledge. And now they have that small bit of knowledge, they use that to argue with others. So they might have studied a course of some sort, a small course, maybe on aqidah, maybe on fiqh, maybe on something. And now Allah has blessed them with a bit of knowledge. But the human nature is argumentative. And Shaitan is and our nafs is so weak, and we've spent so little effort on our nafs and our desires, that we will take this knowledge which was meant to bring us closer to Allah, and will alienate others, and will start debating and arguing and fighting with this knowledge. These three things become independent from them, in the sense that I don't need these for the world: money, fame, and knowledge. We need knowledge to lead us to Allah. And the money and fame that Allah gives us, it's written for us. Now, he says, and this is very important because we have to learn a way how not to be envious of others, how not to be jealous of others. It's okay to say don't be jealous. It's okay not to say not don't be envious. But we need a technique, we need a method, because that's what this is all about. And so what does he say? He says, فَتَأَمَّلْتُ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. Allah mentions it in the Quran. Allah teaches us, نَحْنُ قَسَمْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَعِيشَتَهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Allah says, نَحْنُ قَسَمْنَا. Right? For those who've studied Arabic students will know, نَحْنُ قَسَمْنَا. نَحْنُ is your jumla ismiya. It starts with the mubtada. And then it goes to qasamna, it becomes a fi'l, which means you need your khabar. That's your khabar. So he says, نَحْنُ قَسَمْنَا. Allah's not saying we distributed their sustenance. Allah's saying it's us. نَحْنُ, it's us. قَسَمْنَا, we distributed. It's a huge level of emphasis. What's Allah saying? Allah's kind of refuting an idea. Don't take your issues with that person. He's got money. Why is your problem with him? He's got fame. Don't take an issue with him. He's got knowledge. Don't take your issue with him. Nahnu, it's us. Qasamna, we distributed between them, between the people, ma'ishatahum, their sustenance, fil hayati dunya, in the life of this world. And Allah doesn't say fi hadhihi al-hayah. He actually says fil hayati dunya. The Quran is beautiful, and the reason Allah does this is because al-hayati dunya, for the students of Arabic, they'll know it's mawsuf sifa. Allah's not just saying in this world, He's describing the world as dunya. And the word dunya indicates and gives you the idea of this lowly world, this world of no significance. That you are arguing over something which is insignificant and forget the fact that it's insignificant. End of the day, it's us who gave it. It's us, we distributed it. Why are you going to them? If Allah gives somebody money, if Allah gives somebody wealth, if Allah gives somebody fame, if Allah gives somebody knowledge, you running after that person because of their wealth and their knowledge and speaking ill about them, it will not affect their wealth in the slightest. It will not affect their status in the slightest. You know, that person who goes behind people's backs and speaks about them, don't think you've hurt somebody. People will look at you with this eye that this person speaks about other people. You will become that person. And the scholars have a saying. They say, just as you have tongues, other people have tongues also. Other people have tongues also. And so that's the first. Second thing, when you speak about somebody and you try to bring them down, you do no harm to them, you are actually transferring your good deeds to that individual. This is somebody you hate. This is somebody you despise. This is somebody you're jealous of. And the jealousy is a natural feeling. It will come within us at times when we see somebody who we might not like for whatever reason. Disliking somebody isn't a sin, but you might not like them, but you don't express it, you don't show it, you don't in any way kind of wish ill on them, and you might have dislike for somebody and it comes into your heart. Fine, you try to clean it, fine, no problem. But you speaking against this person and you speaking about this person and slandering this person, you hate them so much, yet you are willing to transfer your good deeds to them and take their evil. What kind of enmity is this? And scholars of the past would say, those people who have time to backbite, and you really have an intention on backbiting, don't backbite other people, backbite us, backbite me. Give me your rewards, take my sins. And there were scholars who, when they heard that somebody had backbited them, they would go and send a gift to that person's house as a lesson to that individual, but also as a way of saying that you backbited about me, I appreciate the rewards. To teach that individual that you're not harming me in the slightest. And that's one of the worst things about envy and jealousy. It burns you more than it burns that person. It's like it's a self-inflicting pain. You're putting yourself through this. And envy and jealousy. And so he summarizes beautifully. He says this hasad of wealth and this hasad, the jealousy of fame and jealousy of knowledge. نحن قسمنا بينهم. And by the way, a higher level of emphasis for the Arabic students is نحن. Of course, Allah uses we. Allah is singular. Allah is one. But He says, all of the attention should come to me. It might seem like the distribution was such a hard task that person was involved and that person was, so many people were involved. Nahnu is what you would expect Allah to say. Allah is saying all of that was done, it's all me. So his and his and hers and hers, all of it is mine. I gave it to them. نحن, we, comma, قسمنا, we distributed بينهم, between the people, معيشتهم, their sustenance. We gave it to them. When you point a finger and say, why does he have this? You're in essence questioning Allah's right to give. You're saying, why did Allah give him this? Why did Allah give her this? Fil hayat dunya, and then Allah shows this hayat dunya. Really? First of all, I gave it, and now you're willing to argue over something which is of this world, this insignificant world? You think I care for this world that you're saying Allah distributed this? And this idea, Allah, this theme continues in the Quran. When Allah gives to non-Muslims, we sometimes have this idea that why are they so rich? Why has Allah given them so much of this world? Because this world is insignificant to Allah. It means nothing to Allah. This world has no value in the eyes of Allah. If Allah gives this world and this dunya to somebody, big deal. Wow, okay, big deal. فَعَلِمْتُ أَنَّ الْقِسْمَةَ كانت من الله تعالى. I understood that the distribution was from the will of Allah, fil azal, for eternity. It's something Allah fixed. I can't change that. It's done. فما حسدت أحدا. I was never jealous of anybody after this. I never envied anybody. وَرَضِيتُ بِقِسْمَةِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. And I was content with the distribution of Allah the Most High. That is the fifth lesson. Let's wrap it up there, inshallah. We won't go further. Roughly 45 minutes to an hour. The 6th and the 7th and the 8th. They're short, but we'll allow these to digest, inshallah. Any questions? Any questions before we wrap up, inshallah? Really, really powerful, these 8 ideas. If a person understands these 8 ideas, honestly, spiritually, a person would have made leaps and bounds. If I was to say start from somewhere, I would say start from these lessons, because you understand yourself, you understand how the human being works, and you understand how we operate, and then you're able to kind of work on this. And all of these ideas are in the Quran. Engaging with the Quran is extremely essential, and that's one of the reasons that in September, inshallah, we'll be starting the Arabic intensive once more, a brand new batch of students, male and female. There'll be 2 separate classes, one male class and one female class, because there's been such an interest for it that we've said, fine, let's expand it and do 2 new classes, inshallah, along with a few other classes that will be starting in September. But that I just realized that this is on the Makwas channel, and so it will be, at the Norbury site, inshallah. But in Makwas, we're planning on a few things as well. Any questions? Any questions before we wrap it up there, inshallah? Inshallah. So we'll see you next week, inshallah. Bring one more person with you, inshallah, so they can also benefit. And we'll wrap it up there, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.